Yep. We'll see what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
We got some home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that
We were supposed to have one this year.
We were supposed to have 7 this year.
Yep.
COVID took care of that.
I was worried we might not have it.
Iowa, it was Iowa.
That's right, Iowa.
Live Oak was.
I think we end up splitting 5 and 5.
East Feliciana was supposed to come in. Y'all had to go to Live Oak and play.
Yes,
East
sir.
Feliciana, they were coming here.
Right.
That was the game, really, it was our home game, but we didn't play it here.
Yes, sir.
And, the Struma was supposed to come here. That was wiped completely out.
Yep.
Never again.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold in
Now it's been cold. I got chilly earlier today. But
They had
then
that great
so-
running back, and I never heard nothing of him until the season started. He just dropped off and
Mhm.
facing their.
But he got a pretty storied college career. He was up at Notre Dame with Kelly for a while. I mean, he's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know how he's going to recruit.
Not that many coaches go want to drop from the pros back to college. So
But he was offered the head coaching job at Tennessee and one other school when he didn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, the SEC's 0-4 in the bowl.
Sure is.
0-4.
Yep. They ain't doing themselves
Nobody's
nothing.
playing. I mean, did you see the
What?
Mississippi State game? I mean, nobody's in the game.
But did you see that guy from I think it was at Hawaii said he's so upset with the portal because no players are playing.
Well, that's my point.
Yep. No players.
Well, it's not only portal. You can opt out. You
Right.
don't have to play anymore.
Right.
I mean, Leonard Fournette did the same thing when he was a senior.
Yep.
Did y'all watch T.J. Finley yesterday?
No, I
They
didn't.
played Houston. Houston beat T.J. Finley. He didn't look good at all. I mean, he got a big cannon for arm. Only thing, the ball's over here and the receiver's way over here.
He's not mobile, man.
He's
His
not
his
mobile.
his footwork is horrible.
He couldn't do nothing against Houston. Houston beat him 17-13.
Mm-hmm.
Houston had won 12 games, counting their bowl game. They had a 12-game win season. Houston's going to the Big 12. I believe it's in 2 years.
It's kind of like watching the pro games now with all the COVID people off the team. I mean, it's
Right.
it's not the same.
It's not because I got so sick of looking at that game Monday night too. Ooh.
That was horrible, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
I quit at halftime.
Kind of like back in the years ago, they had players striking, they had replacement players. Played with replacement players. That was,
I mean, time you get the snap, shoot, they was on.
yeah. Saints had 3 starting offensive linemen. Now, it wasn't all fire, some of them was injured, the 2 tackles.
Yep.
freezing.
Then you was missing
They didn't bring your jacket.
I think it's one of that.
Mario Davis and
Yeah, they linebacker.
the
He.
boy from LSU too.
Yep.
Quan Alexander.
Yeah, that's the 2 top men on defense, really.
Yep.
I don't know who else going to play the next 2 games. It's possible to win. They get some of the players back. They go like us, Carolina and the Falcons. They not. Daniel Walker, they not unbeatable.
Yep.
They don't beat Carolina this year, though it's over the or the playoffs. They still got a shot.
They still got a shot,
They
right?
need a little help, though. They got to win. They 2 years some help too.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. It's got to lose.
Man, Cincinnati is being a little sneaky team, huh?
Yes, they are. Then Joe Burrow brought them a long way, and
Yeah.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, they playing good. I don't know if they beat Kansas City or not, but when they play them,
Right.
Buffalo would be good too at times. Buffalo would push over.
Yeah. Let's say they. $507.
Alvin said he was on his way.
When the baseball season started too.
Matter of fact,
For y'all, I'm talking about for y'all. March,
to be honest with you, when I gave it up, I handed them uniforms and that schedule, didn't look at it no more, so I don't
you
even
don't
know.
keep up with it. You don't coach yet.
I'm on my last sport for the year right now. We doing a good job. We doing a good job. Got a pretty good basketball team this year. Yeah. Got a big game against a 5A school Tuesday night at playing Lakeshore. They're a very disciplined ball club.
Yeah.
So we play them Tuesday night, then we start district against Vonderdo Friday. So I'm looking forward. We've been playing real hard, man.
Was you surprised that they winning the football championship?
I'm not surprised at
I
all.
had to sin. I went to the game.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was in there. Not the champion, but when y'all played. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. They had a stellar defense,
Yeah,
man.
no, I said they don't win state.
They could have blew those people out, but they didn't. They wanted to throw everything deep. They wouldn't. That quick stuff could have been incorporated in your run game, you know, because they played them man to man the whole game. But A-Meat defense, man, oh my God.
Yeah. Manny had to rough the kicker though on that field goal.
Right.
Manny was still in the game.
Sure was.
When they meet, they scored, but then they couldn't. Manny drove the length of the field and scored the next time they got.
And
the ball.
anytime you can drive the length of the field on all run plays,
He's pretty strong.
you're
man.
pretty strong.
I think they completed one. I think Manny completed one pass. They didn't attempt about two.
Right.
They completed one. I listened to it on radio.
Yeah, I was right there, man.
I seen the highlights on TV.
Yeah.
So it was over with.
Yeah.
They got number 4 and 5 another year. They Nick's got 4. I think 4 is a sophomore, 5 and G.
No, they gone. Both of them.
So somebody was wrong with somebody was
No, both of them. are. What's that, Mr. Bruce? Both of them are gone. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want one?
I'd like that one, please.
Wait, thank you.
I'll take what you got extra. You have more than me.
I think I got enough here. Do you need one? You want one? More easy enough to do. I was telling you, that we were pretty bad. They were probably come off a cruise and got sick. All right, you ready, please?
Our public hearing is now called to order.
Thank you, I'm sorry I was a few minutes late, but this has been a battle trying to meet the last end of the year deadline stuff. And I gave everybody, that's our annual financial statement from the previous year, just to have them for reference. But what I've got here is, I don't have everything in the formal with the table of contents, but I think it'll be easier to follow this way because of the different funds that we have. All this was emailed y'all right before the meeting, but I'm sure you did have a chance to look at it.
It was about 2 hours ago, yeah.
Well, you know,
Very good. Right.
it didn't because I was trying to get it out earlier. The first thing you have there, let's first back up. The reason we're here is Louisiana has a local budget act. Purpose of that act is to be sure that the town doesn't get in a deficit situation, because it's illegal to have a deficit in any of the funds. And back in '80, when the oil prices went down and the state couldn't bail everybody out for little projects or whatever, they required fiscal responsibility. And as part of that process, every year, the town is supposed to adopt a budget. You know, and in that, what we'll do is we'll look at what we think our anticipated revenues, expenditures are, and also what surpluses we've got coming out of the previous year. By law, you have to stay within 5% of those whatever you adopt, because this budget adoption is what we call an appropriation budget. We've gone through, and I'll tell you about the process and what's in here, to be sure that once everybody's happy and adopts it, that appropriates the money for the mayor to run the town. It's a flexible budget, it can be amended in any meeting. So if there's something in this budget that, and it will change, as we well know, we'll amend it from time to time. But what we've got here is our original numbers that we adopted in the budget, revised numbers based on what's changed, and I know really hadn't been any significant changes, and also the budget for next year, which again is appropriation budget. So when we get through, there is an ordinance that you'll adopt that will put all this into action. The first part of the budget is the budget message. And the main thing, this is where you go through and you talk about the things and the different funds that we have. Basically, for year in and year out, the general fund doesn't have enough revenue to run all of its operations, and in the utility funds, if we have any surplus funds and we met our obligations, you can subsidize the general fund with that. And we've had to do that. We'd like to get away from that, but we haven't been able to. So the other thing is, a lot of times I always bring this up. If you look at our budget, it looks like we have a good bit of revenue. Here, Mike, here's your one. Here. Well, you're part of it, so you may want one. I think so. But you might have to answer some questions, so I don't run off. Anyway, certain things in the town of Kentwood are unusual. Is years ago when they passed the sales tax, half of one, or 25% of the 2 cent sales tax we have is dedicated for paying residential garbage collection. That's like $500,000 we get in revenue that we basically give back to the residents. So that's why it costs you $1 for your garbage. The other thing, let's see, I mentioned that, and I'm not going to read all these things because we're going to go through them individually. On the utility funds, water, gas, and sewer, we're going to go over those. So we've had an increase in gas prices here in the last couple of months. But one thing that the town did receive was $450,480 under this American Rescue Act, but that money has been dedicated to the water and sewer improvements that we have to have. And we'll get another part. Y'all remember one of the last meetings, the engineer showed us, the multi-million-dollar project, which is critical to the town to make sure all our utilities stay intact and function properly. I'm going to talk about the nursing home property that we have up there, what's happened with that. We got a tenant in there. There's a budget in here for the Kentwood Volunteer Fire Department, which really is not the town's money. That's the fire tax, and at least put together a budget for that, for what they collect. And they have a 20 mil tax that they use to buy equipment and so forth and service the area outside of town. They are actually, it used to be pretty equal what the town paid and what they paid, but now their revenue is growing, so giving us, you'll see in the budget, significantly more money out there, and thank God they're out there because they partner up with us and do a lot of coverage that we wouldn't have here. Then we have LHFA fund, which is, we got some grant money some years ago, and they built these 2 houses over here with it. We bought the property. It was to get rid of blighted property. And one of those properties was Billy Quinn's office, and a truck hit it, and the money we got in there is from the proceeds from that. But it's a small fund. Then we have our housing assistance, which is a HUD rental assistance program, which is pretty much an in and out. And we also have monies, ad valorem tax that goes and is used for recreation. And 75% of that has been bonded for the improvements we got, in addition to the grants that we got, and that's all mentioned in here. So that's, y'all can read that. Actually, the mayor hadn't even had a chance to go through and proof or add anything to it. You got anything to add to that, Rochelle?
Not at the moment.
I didn't get a chance to go through and take a look at the Hurricane Ida. The town did spend some money. We're in the process of evaluating that and get a reimbursement from FEMA, but didn't, as of today, I don't know what that is. So the next document is the budget ordinance. And basically, when we get through with this is the ordinance that puts it into effect. It basically adopts the amended budget for 2021 and approves the budget for 2022, and it also sets salaries for all the elected officials and department heads. And there is some pay raises proposed in there. And
This is an unrelated question. I might even be on a different page than you, but I just see here it says in August the 21st, on August of 2021, we received the $450,000 from the American Rescue Fund. I'm just asking because it's been kind of a point of contention lately. Was that put in the new account that we opened at First Guarantee Bank
Yes.
back then?
Yes.
So that's when all that was, the August of 2021, right?
Mhm.
yeah, it has to be put in a separate account and separated. And then once you have, that's part of this process, and mentioned in the budget message, that money right now is being earmarked to be used in the water sewer system improvements.
Yes.
So we don't use it for something else that was not permissible by the grant itself.
Okay. I just want to ask, just so it's
Yeah.
concreted here, we have this. All right, good.
So we won't touch that money until we get ready to start our project.
Yes. And there should be another installment in August of 22.
22.
That'll match that. And that's the money I think he was having reference to that we would have, but still, y'all approved the possible issuance of $1 million worth of bonds. We may not need those, but it's kind of like put in there in the event we do, so we can take advantage of that second pool of money, which is much greater than this.
Okay.
Do y'all remember, I didn't bring that with me, so, okay, so this ordinance will be what y'all vote on and get through doing this. Okay, first, the next fund is the general fund. Y'all got that one? I felt like I'd rather put them all in one document and try to separate it, because the general fund is where we report everything other than what has to be in a special revenue account. So what you have here on page 1 is the first column is the original budget. The second column is what we're projecting to end the year up, and that's what we're going to amend it to. The next columns are our actual numbers at the end of October that we had. Then we have to estimate the remaining part of the year to get the projected year in, and that's what you use as a basis to amend 2021. And then there's a proposed 2022 next to the last column on the right, and the percentage change. So a lot of that stuff's in the budget message. I just want to be sure it'd be good to go through this and mention it. Okay, on page 1, our charges for services. The original budget was $36,600. It looks like it's going to come in at $29,583, and we're proposing $38,100. You can see that the change, the little change here would be with the school resource officer. We didn't have that person the whole year, so we didn't collect as much money from the school board, but Mike's got it in there to, get somebody back in there. Then you have the fines and forfeitures, the small grants, then the intergovernmental revenues on that page. So all that looks pretty much like what we expected it to be. It will probably remain about the same next year. On the second page, you have our licenses and permits. We originally had budgeted $145,000. Looks like we're going to get $162,475, and we budgeted at $159,000. What is that number? 69,000 next year. Other miscellaneous revenues, one of them, I guess, are parks and stuff. Some of that, the recreation, we didn't really have any activity, tried to start a program, maybe I didn't get that going, but some of that could be changed for next year. So we originally budgeted $19,300. Looks like we only ended up $19,715. Budgeted $21,000 for next year. The on behalf payments is the state supplemental pay. That is the $500 a month that all of our police officers receive from the state. The state actually pays that, gives that directly to the officers. The town has to report that as a revenue, and also we take it back out as a deduction, but we have to pay the employment taxes on that. And that's just an accounting situation. On sanitation fees, we have the commercial and residential. You can see our residential is not very much. We don't charge, like I said, $1 per customer. On the commercial, they do have to pay for theirs, and we budgeted $83,300. Looks like we're going to project out at $79,500, and based on what the last couple of months, that will probably go up to $82,600 next year. No big change there. And did they comment on that, Rochelle? The fact that the town is probably going to look at some proposals.
Right. I think that contract with this particular company comes up in next year for its sanitation, and we are going to be obtaining some more bids to see if we can get some better service.
Yeah. And that's kind of like everybody else. One of their biggest drawbacks is manning of operations, but we still got to keep them top of their game. On page 3, our ad valorem taxes. These taxes are the ad valorem property taxes that we have. We have our general. We have, I think it's, I don't know what the mill's about 5 mills. It's in the report for police and fire, which only bring in like $39,600. What we have for the town is $82,000. And we have been working with this LaMatch, which is the Louisiana Municipal Association organization that collects the sales tax, because most of these bills are so small, which are supposed to have tax sales and stuff like that, and they collect it for the town. So that's helped us. The energy franchise tax, the 47 budgeted, going to be at 54. We budgeted 55 next year. The town gets 2% of the power bills in town. And here on sales tax, we originally budgeted $1,050,000. Looks like we should end up somewhere around $1,186,000. This is a hard one because it's kind of fluctuated. We put it at $1,200,000 next year. And that's mentioned in the budget, and I mentioned it. 25% of that goes to garbage. Okay, dog, and we get to the expenses now. Dog control agreement with the parish. We pay them $6,600 a year to come up and take care of the animals. We don't have to have a pound or some dog catcher or any of that kind of stuff. The general and administrative, keep from taking all night. Let's just look at the categories, and then we'll look at it's on this page, on page 3. page 4. I guess it gives over 5. Okay, the our original budget was under general administration was $866,000. It looks like we're gonna end up about $849,550, and we budgeted $966,685. And if you look back in the individual items, there's probably some things like health insurance, the big items, for salaries, payroll taxes, general liabilities included, insurance is included in that, retirement system, professional service, but every one of those things in there. But like I say, we're not terribly out of line if you look at that from what we expect to be. Under the museum, we originally budgeted $19,000, but looks like it's gonna come in at $13,500. We put it back at $19,000 because, because of the COVID situation. That wasn't as open as much, so we didn't have as much salaries out there. Okay, public safety fire department. This is the expenses that the town pays for coverage inside the city. It's different from the tax that's out there. And if you look there, the original budget was $201,000. Looks like we only spent $131,700. But it goes back up to $237,225 for next year. And that's because of capital expenditures. I think the town was supposed to buy a service truck and some other equipment that they did buy in 21, so it's gonna be rolled over to 2022. And let's see, that's pretty much the big thing about that one. Okay, on the police department, which is on page 6. The original budget was $861,500. We're coming in at $793,650. And it's going up because, same reason, because of some vehicles and stuff that we were supposed to purchase in 21, it's got bumped to 2022. And also in there is the fact we're probably gonna look like we did in the other, when we did this 5 years ago, using some lease purchase financing, low interest to keep from having that big outlay at one time. One of the things in there is a big item was police salaries were budgeted at 460. We're gonna end up at 420, but if you look what his full staff would be, then you have 466,240. So that fluctuates because you were out people for a number of years and had to make that. Of course, I guess you pay overtime, but still you don't have all the additional costs of those folks out there. Okay, on the streets and sanitation. Okay, we had a budget of $468,000, ended up with $546,000. We budgeted $580,450 for next year. Some of the big items in there is, of course, what we paid for the garbage collection. We had budgeted it at $260. We ended up spending $296, and we are projecting that at $300,000 for next year. I think in here also we're looking for next year at purchasing a truck for about $30,000 in the street department. Because all of our equipment's getting pretty old and unreliable. Okay, then on the next page, page 8, which is the last page of the general fund, like I said, we buy that $30,000. We didn't have the lease proceeds, but we're putting all all those things, because we were gonna purchase a car last year for 30, but that didn't happen, so that goes to 0 for 21. Next year, between the police, the fire department, and the street department, we'll probably end up leasing about $170,000. I projected the amortization and interest payments and principal payments are in those numbers. And then the next thing is, here's where we had the shortfall. It looks like we had budgeted $700,000 to be transferred from the utilities to the general fund. If you look at the numbers there, we may not have to transfer all of that. One other transfer is we do subsidized housing for $20,550. So I'm thinking that might even be cut back, that 214. So, anybody got any questions on the general fund?
The street salaries, why was it amended from 25,000 to 39,000? What was the reason for that?
It's probably because we had people in and out, you know. Let me look and see exactly.
The 59% increase
That's on
between
page
7.
Page 7. Okay, let's see, our salaries. We're at 25. I think one thing, I don't know if that's where the cemetery guy is. We added a person that we didn't have originally budgeted because we had the contract. And then we got that back, so I'm pretty sure that's where that is.
So that's the guy that's already
That's working at the, you remember we had it out as far as contracted with a guy from Hammond, but he was hitting and missing and he wasn't there. This guy is with us.
So you just took one of our guys and he mainly does the cemetery.
He's doing a good job.
That's his full-time job, keeping the cemetery.
About what were we paying the other people?
2,500.
This guy's doing as good or better job than they were.
Because he's there all the time. The other guy would come on a Saturday and he may not get everything done, but he would come back for another 2 weeks, so.
Somewhere there was a line item for that contract. I'm trying to see what it was.
Bruce, if did he answer your question?
He did. I had another one from Mayor Bates, but you can go.
So how much money do you think we're gonna have to transfer on page 8?
Well, look at what I'm seeing right here, 500, which is $200,000 less than anticipated. Okay? And again, we'll have to look at that as we go by, it just fluctuates. I mean, when you have capital expenditures and stuff like that, but again, I've gone through every account in each one of these funds and look what our revenue is and what it's supposed to be and see if there's anything that needs to be misclassified. So most of these things that you see in here, stuff the town just has to do
Right.
day in and day out. There's not, obviously you're running with a short crew of people, but we've lost some people that haven't been replaced. So that's kind of been, it looks good on paper, but it may not be good on the outside.
Right, I understand.
But,
Mayor Bates,
Yes.
which of our dispatching services do we outsource? I remember we made that decision a while back. What department mainly uses those?
For dispatch, police, and fire.
Yeah, we outsourced a portion of ours.
911.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that where is that under the police salaries dispatchers line item on page 6?
no, Mike could probably explain that better than I can, but that's the people you have over here after hours, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They do strictly police dispatches and everything. We use a transcribed 911 system, and it's, I can't explain to you how it's broken down because it's changed somewhat. It's kind of complicated, but, I don't even know what our figures are in there.
It's in there. If you remember, I think in the last year they started charging a fee like $800 or $900 a month. I'm trying to remember what that was.
I don't remember.
It is because they've got some new equipment and they're constantly changing up, improving the way it is. I mean, like for instance, included in there, did y'all get portable radios?
Yes,
Okay, y'all just got some because y'all had to replace y'all.
sir. Yes,
Now, where's Mike? Is he gone?
sir. Yes, sir. I heard you go outside.
Anyway, I think in that police, there's about 30,000 because the radios they've got are antiquated.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't, you know, that's their lifeline, so you got to have radio, especially if you're out there.
Yeah, man. Mike, cause y'all only have a guy here Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Am I correct?
Yes, and right now, we're hunting people.
Okay.
Like you say, there's a shortage of manpower everywhere.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask. I saw on the other page on the front where some department heads, there was an increase in salaries, 10%, 13% for like the chief of police. Do we, since we've had a bunch of resignations in our police department, are we in a financial situation to be looking for more police officers to fill that void? Would that be feasible at this moment?
I don't know if I'm ready to want to answer that. Mike knows what he's got to have to cover the town and be safe, because a lot of times they don't put one guy out there like they used to, because of just today's environment.
I think he's down 3 officers.
Yeah, but if he's down 3, what happens though is you're having to get some of the other guys to come out and help cover, so you're paying overtime for them.
That's why I'm asking. Currently,
So
it's
it's better to have them, all those slots filled, because it cuts down your overtime.
That's what I'm asking. Is it financially feasible from where we are right now, according to this budget, to add more police officers to fill their spots, keeping in mind the salary raises, I guess?
I make sure I'm answering that question right, but we're basically trying to keep what he feels is he's got like a number ideally to fill all the shifts and cover the town and all that. Well, again, I would say, yeah, you probably need them, and that's why the number went up, because we put enough money in 22 to have fully staffed.
So
Just like this year, we may end up below that because he may not can fill them.
So essentially, these numbers are based off of the current amount of officers we have now, not extending it to more officers than we currently have
it's
now.
the same number of slots. We're not proposing to add 3 people on this force. We're just trying to make the force what it's supposed to be.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a room to grow model.
No, not really. It's the same. And like I said, that's why you'll see these numbers. We budget that much. If you can't fill them, we're not going to need that much money, because we're having to go short or whatever. And like Mike said, sometimes you just can't find those people, because it's like whether you're a fireman or you're police, you just can't get one bodies off the street here. Because they're real strict on what their certifications and background and experience are. And then what happens, a year ago, when there's a lot of competition, because the upper departments, whether it be sheriff's office, state, or whatever, they can leave here once they get an experience. They can leave here and make more money, and they're not captive employees.
Okay, I was just asking that in
I
respect
guess
to.
to answer your question, I'm trying to make you understand the whole picture of how that works.
Yeah. I was just asking that in respect to some of the salary raises we saw in that department, because it's a problem the entire country is facing now. Everyone kind of wants to be paid more for what they do, with the Great Resignation, so to speak.
Well,
But
I'm feeling it myself. But like you say, is you train these people. If you don't pay them competitively, you're back to square one. You may not be fine. So that's Mayor or Mike, whoever can.
Mike and Dick, look at Mike there.
You got somebody who might be preoccupied. Okay, is everybody go with general fund?
those are all the questions I had for this.
All right, the next one I have is the utility fund. These are our 2 big funds. Okay. The first page, we start off with gas sales. And there's 2 things that affects it: how much the consumption is, how much the price is, and also the weather. And you can see that, the big thing here, and I'm not really as comfortable as I normally would be with my estimates on that for the month of December, because December's been warm up to now, and I'm projecting that unlike December's usage last year, and I don't know what it is till we get all the meters read, but, we did have had a significant increase in the price of gas, which, you know, you charge more. One of the good things, it looks to me like Marina's still using, or Land O'Lakes is still using a good bit. And we do have one new customer, but we don't know how much that's gonna be. I mean, Marina or Land O'Lakes, one customer uses more gas than the whole town does. So that helps. You make money, you know, we don't make as much money because if we charge them too much, they get their own tap, they're gonna spend several $100,000, they buy it direct, but they'd rather the town provide it because they're on our service area. And, we picked up Smitty's, but we don't know how much
Gas
they're
they're
gonna use.
Right.
They do a good bit, because if you didn't have those customers, what you're making off of that, if you still had all the same employees and everything, you gotta spread those costs over just the residential. So that's,
Mr. Gary,
The brick plant,
at one time they had expressed interest, I don't know where that is, Mr. Davis.
they have new people now,
The new owners?
Right.
Yeah, so we'll probably,
and they have no bricks.
right.
They're gonna start firing them all, they're gonna be,
well, what they've got over the years, that's, you know, that's been back and forth, we've had, and we belong to the Louisiana Municipal Gas Authority, so we have people from their organization that come out and look at customers and see how we can, the town can service them, and we can be competitive and all of that. And they have a huge propane tank now, there's probably an 8,000 gallon, you know, and so I guess they've been able to buy their own gas direct. They were talking about getting to town, there's an alternative, because, you know, this gas stuff's pretty flaky about who's shut down and who isn't. But we've never been able to offer them a deal that they would take. I guess best way to put it.
I just hope with the new owners maybe.
Well, it might, it just, but, you know, it's all the stuff is, they're trying to make a profit, so if you can't compete, you don't get to make it. Okay, but anyway, like I said, we can expect, I guess, gas bills to go up. So hopefully, a lot of that consumption maybe will be offset. You know, if the feed mill keeps still producing and the Smitty's does a good bit, that's gonna help us there. We just gonna have to monitor that as we go. The other thing, you can see like our late penalties, is price of fuel, the gas goes up. Fewer people, you know, the penalties are more because it's based on a bigger amount, it's hard for people to pay. And the other little revenues, but you can see there, penalties is not a revenue you want to see growth. And the sewer charges, we budgeted $571,000. Looks like we'll hit at 580, and that's probably the same because sewer is pretty much a flat fee other than a few commercial, and then that's pretty much stays the same. On the next page, you have the water department sales. Every year, Kentwood Spring Water, just, I guess, to be honest with you, out of the goodness of their heart, gives us $15,000 a year. They don't have to give that to us because the water's not franchised. But I guess years come back, they said, you know, we use the Kentwood name and all that. So they've always done that. Our water sales were budgeted at 620. It looks like they're at 630, and I don't see us having any huge number of customer increase, so left it at that. Other operating income, we budgeted $25,232, budgeted, let's see, 34 next year. The depreciation expense is kind of constant. We hadn't had any big improvements. I'm on page 2. On the gas operating expenses, you can see our budgeted $285,850 ended up at $262,000. You can see this was a department that salaries were budgeted and 146. We ended up at 110, and that's what we left it, but we may have lost some charges to that. I don't remember who exactly, and I don't know if David was part of his, was coming out of there without looking back at it. And in these particular departments, not this one, but you can see it cost us $338, and if you had the depreciation, our gross profit is back up on the gas, needs to probably be a little bit more, so we're not, we're definitely not overcharging people. And as I mentioned in the budget message, we haven't raised rates on water and sewer since 17, when we did the last big, and the cost of these services is going up. Most places every year used to like it at minimum, and cost of living or $1 or $2 a month, so we don't have to go up 10 or 15 into 5 years. But that's something, you've got to look at what these budgets determine what we've got to generate. So that's the gas department.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay. If I do recall, there were some logistical issues with hooking Smitty's up to our gas system that might affect their usage. So with that being said, and with the price of gas increasing on the residential user, would it still be advised, as I think I mentioned last year or the year before last, to look into selling our gas system to a third party that might have more funds to maintenance and lower the cost?
I mentioned that then, I think I bring it up every year. Now, I think what you're talking about that, and I don't know because I am not involved out there day to day, but I think there was some issue with the original meter that we put in.
I think they were given the wrong pipe sizing
Yeah, it
for.
was not big enough.
It's been corrected.
That's been corrected. So that's what I'm saying. They were just getting them back online, so we don't really know how much they're going to use. Now, every year for years and years, there would be people come and want to buy your gas system because if you go into the cities or whatever, they're on private. They need energy on some of the gas systems. Atmos is a big one. And several years ago, I mentioned it to one of the guys at the LMA convention that they still do it. He said, yeah, we would be interested in looking at it. But here's the reason, my reason behind it. Our system is old. The last major improvement was made in 1978 or renovate. Now, according to David, our system's in pretty good shape because you'll see that money cathodic protection. We've got all that system on there and it's checked. It basically you'll see these little things spinning on the light pole. It's putting electrical chargers into the pipe to keep it from rusting, because we got a lot of metal pipe out there from the whole system. He says it's in pretty good shape. But you would get, it's kind of like when Tangipahoa Water District took over these little small districts. Their water bills were like cut in half because they had more customers to spread the overhead. And my thinking is, our system's getting old. It's more complicated and it's harder to have personnel that can safely maintain the system. If you could get some money out of it by selling it, and the people's gas charges could possibly go down, we'd have to look at that. They save $30, $40 a month. That doesn't put as much pressure on them if we have to go up on the water and sewer. It just makes sense. You're trying to get everybody in towns, utility bills as low as you possibly can. So that's still something. I don't think I'll tell you one thing, they hadn't been knocking on the City Hall store wanting to buy it like they used to. There was a guy, what's his name, Jake, he was on the school board. He worked for,
Bailey?
huh?
Maybe.
Yeah, Jake Bailey, I couldn't remember his name, but he's been dead quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But he worked for, back then it was Louisiana Gas Service before Atmos bought them, and he was trying to buy, he was always wanting to buy it, and of course, the town wasn't selling it because we were making more money on it. If you look at this now, we're not making as much money, and we could really get in a jam if we lose Purina, or if we don't get Smitty's. So that's what I'm saying, this budget is based on 1 year, you got to be looking out in the future. And also, if you get a big industrial prospect in here, you've got to invest a lot of money to provide that service to them, and it takes you money years to do it, and most of the time you can get them to pay for it, but if they got to have natural gas. Same thing like Smitty's, I mean, they wanted to get it, and undoubtedly they gonna make money at it, they wouldn't be buying it from us, but, so anyway, let's see.
Just a ballpark figure. How many gas customers do we have residential?
Yolanda does that, that's her department.
We have about, what is it, 500 and something.
Yeah. And probably at one time, we may have had 1,000 customers. Because over the years, this gas got higher, and, you know, you gotta realize that we don't promote our gas. We got it because usually the reason you got these municipal systems is because nobody can make money at it. That's why they give you the money to give, to help the rural communities. But, you know, how many times have you seen energy more so in the past than they do now, want people to convert to electric hot water heaters and stoves and all that kind of stuff? And because it costs them, you know, if you put in gas, you gotta pay for another service line, you gotta pay a connection fee. And, you know, it's another, they look at it as another bill, even though it might be just cheap. And then it's not been I guess, a fuel source of choice.
Bruce, you was talking about, I'm talking about the gas going down to Farina and Smith. How far down Highway 51 does it go? All into the city limits of they meet, or how far?
Roseland.
Does it service Roseland? Or what is
No, at one time, Roseland and Tangipahoa was part of our system. But you basically get a franchise area, you know, when you get these federal loans like we did when we originally bought it, they make sure through, I guess, all the laws, that you got a franchise service area. So if somebody invokes on it, you know, we might not be able to pay the loan back because somebody has come here and undercut us. They see we're making money, so they protect it. It's kind of like they call it quasi-public, it's somewhat regulated as to what you can service. So,
basically doesn't cover the take in the residents of Roseland. They don't have.
Roseland and Tangipahoa bought their systems from the town of Kentwood.
Those towns.
Back in the 60s. They didn't want everybody in Kentwood making money on Roseland and Tangipahoa, so they merged their own system. So we sold it to them. A lot of history there. Okay. Okay, then the water department. Did we go over sewer? If you see here, no must not be, on page 4, we're spending a lot. We had some major repairs in sewer. We budgeted an operating expense of $135, we ended up spending $225, and that'll go back. But we've had some major repairs in the form of these lift stations, which are very expensive and old, and you know, one of them goes out, you better fix it because everybody's sewer's gonna start backing up. And that would be part of the reason of doing this major project. And also, I spent a bunch of time on, our system was the main system was built in the 1930s. Not only here, but everywhere. It was the WPA, that is, of the Depression. And we've had people over the years, not recently, that's what I'm talking about, these engineers go in and they close off the street and they put smoke bombs, and then you see all going up people's backyards, this, that, and other, because there's so many busted pipes. If you see the cameras they put over the years, people, when they put a service into our sewer, they'll stick a pipe in there, and they'll go all the way across and hit the other side. They don't get it just inside. And all of a sudden you have that, and then when you have it rain, all this water, where does it go? It goes into cracks in the sewer. So, you know, out there at the sewer pond, we're treating sewer probably 3 or 4 times as much as we really should if the system was enclosed. And then that puts pressure, and then we have these lift stations where it does gravity flow. You got to pump, they're expensive, they're mechanical, they get stopped up, and motors go out, and it costs you $10,000, $15,000 after the time one goes down. So it doesn't take, you have a couple of those, you do repairs and maintenance, but that's getting to be a more and more expensive service. On page 5, the water department, here our budget is $363,900. Amended is $373,600, so that one isn't all, therefore Now, we went up on this year.
Supplies.
Huh?
Supplies.
Yeah. One of the biggest things is water treatment supplies. If y'all remember when we did the new, wells down here, we were hoping we would not have to treat it as much as we had this aerification where, churning the water. But with new regulations, there's other chemicals we now have to put in there. We've seen all those type of chemicals, even some of the fertilizer, they may cost 3 times as much today as they did last year. So that reflects here. So instead of spending 55, it looks like we're gonna be spending 90,000 a year treating the water. And next year we've got it budgeted at 95. So that's a budget buster right there, but you're required to do it. Don't really. And now we do have some company that comes in and actually, because it is it's a chemistry thing. You gotta know what you're doing. So we have some people that come in and tend to the equipment, make sure that we get the right amounts in there. A little tidbit on the history, when Bobby Gill was the mayor, they came in, they was the stuff that we did 4 or 5 years ago, they started talking about it, and we looked at financing. And any of the money you get from USDA or any of those people, you had to have water meters. The people in Kentwood. But you gotta realize, it was on cost over $1 million to put water meters in town, so you'd have to pay for that. And he fought them about treating the water, because Kentwood water is so-called pure. But for a long time, I guess we got away with it. Nobody, I guess, died as a result of it. But now, you don't have a choice. It's costing you $90,000 a year to treat your water. If you divide that by how many water customers we got? I don't know, what, 1,100 or something like that? You divide 1,100 into that, it's a pretty good cost per month just to treat the water. All right, and then you have on the next page the bond interest expense, and that was budgeted at 101. It ended up being 109. Well, there's 105. It goes down a little bit depending on when we pay the bonds, and that's pretty much everything. In the next page, we see where we transfer the money out to the general fund. Anybody got any question on any of those 3 services? Again, like I said, most of these things are things that you just have to do. But hopefully, again, long term is, I think that water, sewer thing, I mentioned up here, I don't think I can stress how important that is to us, because with the fact that we've got this American Rescue money and maybe you can get some more grants, we're gonna probably get some things that have been needed for years and years and put off. It's gonna cost a fraction of what it would be if we had to do it on our own. Okay, now those are 2 biggies. Let's see here. The other funds that we have, what y'all got this, Kentwood, volunteer fire department. But that's not the town's money, that's theirs, but it kind of goes through the process, mainly because the Kentwood Volunteer Fire Department services that area, but we don't really pay for their area, they pay on their own. It's just because you go through all these decision trees, who belongs to who, it ends up in our budget. It's pretty much self-explanatory. They put that in there, but we have to have it in our financial statement. Okay, what's the next one? We got to get mine out of order. The small funds. Y'all got the LHFA? That was it. Okay, all that is, I mentioned that earlier, that's these 2 houses that we have down there. You can look, if they're fully rented, we get $16,200 a year. One of them had some damages in it. So there hadn't been anybody in there for several months, so that's why the amended revenue is down. And it probably won't be occupied until sometime next year after that's done. It looks like, that's the one, let's see, if you look, I was thinking we had some pretty big, expenditures on this one, but we can fix it. Let's see, I was thinking it would cost about $25,000 to do those repairs. Is that right? I may have to, that number, I don't have it, you must have got left off. That might be one change we want to do is, let's say, whatever, maybe get a better, but undoubtedly, I don't know what the damage is, but they undoubtedly trashed it pretty good.
Right.
And they wouldn't let the town go in and fix it, or examine it, and finally they just, you're out of here. Now, I don't know what kind of recourse you got against them, but I mean, that's what that money is. It's what that fund is. Okay, what's the next one? We got housing assistance. Okay, that's Evelyn's department. And basically what you have here is HUD reimburses the town for the housing assistant payments, utility allowance we pay, plus they give us admin fee based on those number of units. I guess here we were expecting to get 382,000. We got 410, but we did get, under the CARES Act, they gave the town an extra 14,500 to handle some of the issues, and the town subsidizes it by like 20,550 a year. In the proposed budget, which is over there, Evelyn was one of those people that just proposed to get a pay raise, and that's been adjusted in here. So show that we can cover. If anybody got questions about that, that's pretty much take care of. The next one.
It says here it was a 6.25%.
I think if you look at some of that, I think it's $3 an hour. I don't think she's had a raise for a long time.
For about 5 years, yeah.
Make it, yeah,
So,
5 or 6.
we got run out of oil over here, guys. Everybody's on track. We're just about through. The other one is just one page. Yes, let's see. Should be in the Avalon recreational tanks.
That's what it is. You have my copy.
It should be on here, I don't know. All this stuff looks alike. I got it right here. Okay, I think that's the last one. Okay, the Avalon Recreation, okay, this is pretty much consistent because the villages don't change and our property values don't change. We were looking at getting 117,000, that's what we should end up with in revenue. We had originally budgeted $2,000 from program receipts, but we didn't have any programs. You have the expenses were $93,753 in the original budget. They end up $120,300 because it was $30,000. I think spent down there revitalizing and I don't know what all, but that, and then we now have a contract. If you're looking over here, we also have the debt service, which is 75% of the revenue. That's $84,500, and we have a programs came over. We should. I'm thinking it should be about a $48,000 maintenance cost because we have Will Hammond's company and somebody in there. I'll have to check that, that didn't look like it came across because, I may have to revise it and give y'all the final number on that. And I think that's all. Then the next thing would be is the ordinance. And as I know this was done without giving y'all time to do it, but at least I highly suggest that we do the adopting of the, amending the budget, because that's, you know, the year's almost over with, so if we want to stay within 5%, we need to do that. If anybody has any changes to the proposed budget for next year, you know, before it's finalized, I said two things I need to put in there I saw, before I give you the final version. We need to do that, and then of course, the salaries are here, and we just go over these with the mayor.
You can.
Okay. The mayor's salary is to stay the same. The council will go from $6,500 per year to $7,200. Clerk and tax collector will go from $42.70 a month to $47.32, based on a 30-hour work week, and that's a $3 per hour raise. The town attorney will stay the same. The chief of police will get a $3 per hour raise. The fire chief will get I guess he's getting a $3 per hour raise. Is that right? I'm trying to think. I think that's what it was. And that has to be done in this ordinance. For the director of public works, we don't have really anybody in that position. So that remains the same. And the housing authority administrator, which is Evelyn, she's proposed at a $3 an hour raise. So that's part of this ordinance if you adopt it. So call for discussion or whatever.
Question. What are you
Huh?
Cool. Who am I directing my salary question
Say the
to?
boss.
So what's the rationale behind these raises?
Everyone in the field has received a raise, those in the maintenance department, fire department, the police department, and our workers in the office. Those ladies and I think the chief of police have not had a raise in, I think they said 5 years, so.
And I'm not trying to promote it, but like I said, the other thing is competition. I mean, you guys, you know, we've talked about here for years, guys from the back, is you really need to see what these people make in comparable positions. Who are your competitors for these people? Like you might take the school board, you know, their maintenance department, because you will have people that have left here and gone there, you know. So I'm just saying, you've got, and it's harder. It takes a good bit of skill set to do some of these jobs, especially, I guess, in all of them have a special sets of skill that you have to have, and also knowledge of our systems. You know, we're running a gas system, a water system, and a sewer system. You ain't gonna find a lot of people like to fall off in that sewer pump and wait around and fool that electrical and all that. So, I mean, I guess, you know, when you just make a management decision, those are some of the things that you consider. Do you want to keep the people you got, or you know, you want to? If you lose them, or you paying enough money, you can track replacements. All of us are dealing with that. And even doing all those things, you're gonna lose them right now because of this COVID.
So Bruce, my question is where the extra revenue come in to help fund these raises? If we, you know, what
I guess, you know, we got it in there and it fits for the time being. But sooner or later, we've got to raise rates, whether you do that or whatever. But the problem you got is, and especially in some of these services, is even like you got bonds, they expect you to operate this system. And you do that by paying your salaries, benefits, all that stuff. That determines your rate. So you're making a decision, are they worth it to me? Do I wanna keep them? You know, I don't wanna have them when they don't leave here because, you know, that's just a decision you have to make. So right now, like if you look at all that stuff, if you look at the budget message, we've either got to get some new business now. We're hoping Smitty's is gonna help us. That might be the only thing that I even remember looking at. It's kind of we don't know what that is yet, but I think it's gonna be pretty good. But you know, you got to have people to run the show out there, and we're down people, and we've probably saved some money by being down people. But again, you can only lose so many, and then I don't know what would happen. You'd have to get, like I said, we sell our gas system, and you get the Tangipahoa Water District to come run the water system, and you get the Tangipahoa Sewer to come run the sewer system. But I can tell you what, well, it just depends. On the sewer, I'd say your rates would go up. Your water might go down, I don't know. But, you know, you gotta look at the bonds we got and all that. I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but those are the things.
My only question is it in the budget?
It's in the budget right now.
Right.
I adjusted the budget for it to be in there.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
That's all I wanted,
all right, so I'm sorry for putting all that other in there.
I just like to say, I'm not opposed to giving people raises. Like Bruce said, we do need to keep our people. But I can't vote for something where I'm giving myself a raise. I think all of them should be over there.
Well, when we go into our meeting to look at these, if you want to propose a change, you have to do
Other
it.
than that, I can't vote for it.
Okay. Our public hearing has now come to a close. The Town of Kentwood Council meeting agenda for December 29th, 2021 is now called to order. We'll have the pledge and prayer. I'll do the prayer. We'll ask Councilman Cooper to do the pledge. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you now for all you've done for us. We thank you for this day. Thank you for life, health, and liberty. Father, we pray now for this town. We pray for these board members here, Father, that you would bless each and every one of them. Bless this town, God, and its citizens, that we can continue to live amongst one another in harmony, Father. We pray for our various families, for those who are outside of our area, Father, that need help. Father, we pray for them also. We thank you now for this time of year and what it means for us, God, that what you've done for us so many years ago. We thank you now for all that you've done and all that you're going to do in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Cookman,
Here.
Cooper,
Here.
Diamond,
Here.
Callahan, Winters. Public hearing, discuss amend to FYE 2021 budget and FYE 2022 budget, along with the details of salaries as required by LRS 334041. Must be recognized by the chair before speaking.
Item number one.
Approve amendment to FYE 2001 budget and adopt FYE 2022 budget, along with details of salaries as required by LRS 334041.
So,
Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Okay, as we mentioned earlier, with some of the raises, and that we did them across the board, did our maintenance directors, not maintenance directors, our maintenance workers, they get a similar raise
Yes,
on similar
they
brackets?
Uh-huh.
Percentage wise,
Yeah.
ballpark figure, what was that?
We based it up on their certifications, and whatever certifications they had, I think it was 25 cents per certifications. Plus, they had already received $1.50
That's good.
a year or so ago.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Just back to what I said, is there any way to take our part of the salary off?
You can propose an amendment to it, Could he do that, Ms.?
Yeah.
You can oppose, amendment to it, and then we'd have to put it to a vote and see.
Well, I would like to do that, Mayor, and,
Yeah, get a second once you do it.
that we would, I understand, that we might keep our salary the same.
You're talking about
For the council.
Mayor Bates,
Yes,
I do have a question. What was,
I got a proposal for an amendment here.
so all department heads got like a 10 to 13% raise to adjust for inflation over 5. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I second Gary Callahan's motion.
It's been moved by Councilman Callahan and second by Councilman Cooper that the ordinance be adjusted to leave the council members at $6,500 per year. Any questions on that? Any discussions? We will have a vote. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
One opposed? Two opposed?
I oppose.
So that motion does not carry. So the ordinance will stay as it is. Now we need a motion to, yes,
I just want to bring one thing I mentioned. There's 2 items that I need to correct in there. One was the repairs on these 2 houses. I didn't see where it came across. And the other one was the maintenance for the recreation fund for Will Hammond's contract. Now, and like I said, once this is final, we'll get it all formalized and give you the final document. But that was the only 2 things. I just didn't make sure we didn't leave that out.
can I get a motion to approve the amendments for fiscal year 2021 and adopt fiscal year 2022?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Hookfin, second by Councilman Diamond, to approve the amendments for fiscal year 2021 and adopt fiscal year 2022. Any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Opposed.
I heard 2 ayes on this end, didn't?
That was me.
It was Gary.
Okay. Yeah, 2
I
opposed.
can't vote.
Callahan and Cooper. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Approve liquor license renewal for 2022. Incomplete application of applications not received will not be approved. Dollar General.
That's the only one we.
That's the only one we received is Dollar General.
So move.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Diamond, second by Councilman Callahan to approve the liquor license renewal for 2022 for Dollar General. Any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else claims our attention? If not, meeting adjourned.
Really good.